we have Dylan. How are you, man?
What's up? Nice to be here. Thanks, man. I'm good.
This is a co-hosted podcast with the X-Foils
Yeah, so
podcast.
welcome to my podcast,
So
Daniel.
you do your introduction now. How do you normally introduce your guests? I feel like I'm a guest and a host today.
It's a bit, we're going to be switching it up. We'll see how it goes. I'm Dylan. Welcome to the X-Foils podcast. I'm sitting here with Daniel.
Love that. This is so weird, but look, this is going to be a deep dive into parawinging and everything that I think both of us have experienced so far. If you are watching this on video, Dylan has a few parawings in the background that we'll definitely touch on and talk about. You got the North, the Flow, the Ensis, and what's the last one again?
So BRM and then the Wave Star.
Wave
from Born.
The BRM's in there. I couldn't see it.
It's tucked in there. There
Tucked
she
in
is.
there. Nice.
The trusty old BRM.
The BRM, man, what a legend. Greg coming up with this thing that everybody's frothing now, and probably 2025 is going to be the year of the Parawing.
I mean, this spring. These are all I could get my hands on, but I mean, I don't know how it is for you guys over in Australia, but it's been extremely difficult to get our hands on Parawings. It was BRM and that was essentially it. Ensis, and then finally we got some flows, and we're just kind of waiting. And I think the market's going to kind of blow up here in a second.
Everybody's going to come out at the same time with their thing. Ozone just came out with their pocket rocket, and they're all looking really good, and they all work, right? I think it's worth mentioning, like all these Parawings are working for what they're meant to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can get in and deep dive into each single one, of course, and nitpick every little thing. But essentially, if you want to get up on foil and pack it away, and you don't need anything extreme, they're essentially just fancy trash bags.
They are, and I wish the price would come down a little bit on these fancy trash bags because you do need a few of them. But before we get into all that stuff, why don't we chat a little bit about your background, Dylan, because I think a lot of people getting into parawinging now are expecting a lot from their first couple of sessions, and I feel that a lot of people reach out to me with a lot of frustration, and you have a very interesting background coming from various different foiling disciplines and sports disciplines. So what got you into foiling from the start?
So I'm a kiter. I've got a kiteboarding background, and I was a snowboarder originally, but when I was 16, I relocated back to Mexico, and I was like, when's my next snowboard trip? Not going to happen. So I saw kiteboarding and I picked it up when I was 16. And after my first lesson, I just never left the beach. And that's what I did every single day, was just go to the beach, kite, became an instructor, took over the school, opened my own school. And I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
So I came in to foiling from kiting, which I think if you're a kiter, it's the easiest way to get into foiling is just throw a foil under your feet. You've already got the kite under control and take it from there. And I was super lucky to be in Cabarete and catch on to it pretty early on in like 2013.
Awesome. 2013. Yeah.
Yeah. And it didn't take long. I had Jeremy Green from Jupiter Kiteboarding. He was there and he had kind of figured it out beforehand. It was a lift foil, full carbon setup. So I didn't have to go through strapping boots on my feet and, putting on this aluminum, none of it. So I could have gotten into it earlier, but I didn't even know about it. It just wasn't accessible. Being in Mexico, we just didn't have, in my area of Mexico, I was in Cancun, Playa del Carmen. I know that in Baja, they were early on to it, right? So, but I wasn't into that scene on that side. So I was super lucky to be going to Cabarete every summer and kiting every day and picking up foiling. And that's how it kind of started getting into foiling.
You got kite foiling, and then you started winging just as another discipline that came up, and you were like, yep, I can do that too.
Yeah, for sure. When you first see it, winging, you looked at it and you're like, I know. I don't know. You're like, I don't know if that's going to be a thing. And I had there's a guy here, old school windsurfer, racer. He had a windsurfing school, Kiko Del Mao. I did a podcast with him, and he was early on to it as well. Like right when it came out, we both looked at it like, oh shit, That's it looks cool, but is it going to be something? And he's like, it's going to be the future. He's like, forget about your kites. We're going to be wing foiling. And I was like,
that. I didn't have that impression as well. I love it how some people just see the potential, and I wasn't aware of what it would become at all. I was like oblivious to that, and I shit on it for a long time. I'm like, I'm never going to do it. Never.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I eventually got into it and did it for a while and loved it.
Yeah, I guess it was kind of like right before COVID is when it started coming out. I bought the first slingshot wing. It had an inflatable leading edge on the back. Yeah, it had the leading edge was inflated and the trailing edge was inflated.
Is that the triangular one? Like that kind of arrow shaped one?
No, that came out after.
Jesus.
And I think that was worse. But so I had their first slingshot. I don't know who came up with it first, but the first people I saw doing it were Slingshot, right? Slingshot and Hood River were wing foiling. And so I ordered one from Slingshot, a 4.2, and I was trying to ride it on my 40-liter kite foil board, my race board, with a normal foil in 14 knots. I'm like, this is how you're going to do it. And I just couldn't do it
impossible.
For weeks. I just did the same thing over and over with a sinker board with a 4.2, no idea.
Struggle.
Struggle bus for sure. But there was I don't really research many of these things, like how to do it. I kind of just figured out on my own. And then when I was suffering for so long, walking up the beach and everyone's laughing at me, they're like, oh, look at this guy. And I'm like, you're going to see, man. You're going to see what I'm going to do with this.
I like that. I think that instinct of just trying, and I think there's something cool about just working it out. I love that, and I think it just helps you in the future just to be able to accept things. I had to bite my tongue a few times with foiling, with these disciplines coming out, and now when I see something new, I just like, there's potential. I don't know what it is yet, but there might be something in it.
Yeah. I mean, you never know who knows what we're going to be doing in a month. Who knows? I have no idea. But the winging, I got a bigger board. It was COVID, so we were all locked down. But when I finally figured it out, I got like a bigger foil, and I had like 2 downwind runs, and I finally got it. I was pretty good on a foil because I'd been racing with the kites, and I had a lot of time on foil. But it took me a while. It still, with a 110 liter board, it still took me 4 sessions, to get up and be able to go upwind and, do a jibe and, which I some people would assume is fast, but with the amount of time I've had on the water under a sail, I was like, this sport is impossible.
Yeah.
3 sessions in.
Winging was hard. And it is, I think we just have to be patient with foiling.
Yeah.
Because you also you do a jibe and then you're like, oh, I learned it. But for it to become a consistent thing that you're hitting and getting right all the time takes a little while.
Yeah. And at the same time, I was learning how to prone foil.
Yeah, I was going to ask you prone as well.
Yeah. So I learned how to prone. That took me a long time because I've never surfed before. Yeah. And to this day, I still haven't stepped foot on a surfboard. It's all been on a foil. Yeah. So I learned how to surf on a foil.
That was super hard.
Yeah. So learning how to read the waves, and, I kite surfed a little bit. So I understand how the wave works, but I mean, you don't really understand a wave until you're surfing, and you're out there on your own in the whitewash, standing up and trying to read what's going on, especially when you're trying to do it on a foil. Yeah. Because there's so many different angles you can take. And I mean, I don't know if it's easier. Maybe it's easier to ride a wave on a foil because you've got so many options, right?
Oh, just standing on it. I think the pop-up for me was something that took so long, man.
Yeah.
And still today, I don't practice it enough. So I'm rusty, super rusty on it.
Yeah. So I love it. Yeah, I practice all the disciplines, right? So I'm now in foil drive, and then we tow a lot. We prone, we wing, parawing, downwind sup. So, just any area that you can foil. I mean, just pick a day, pick your vessel and do it.
I love that.
Yeah.
The evolution when you started going into sup downwinding and just sup foiling, how was that? Was that the hardest of them all?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone will say it. yeah, I have no sup background, so I just bought what I could. I bought an Axis 8-foot, 110 liter, I think it was,
That's a good one
and
to start.
put a giant North high aspect on it, and just hammered it out. You know,
How much swearing was involved in that process?
quite a bit. Yeah, I don't get easily frustrated unless I'm really good at something and I know that I should be performing better. When I'm learning something, typically I'm like, you know what? Like, this is just how it is. Like, this is just how it is, right? But with the downwinding, yeah, there was definitely a lot of swearing going on. It was definitely frustrating, you know? And, you know, coming from kiting, you know, like you throw a kite up in the air, any kite will work. If it's flying, you know what the problem is. You just don't have enough power. You know, your board's too small. You're holding too much power. You're overpowered. With foiling, man, you could pick the wrong tail. You know, you could
the wrong shim even.
You could put it like 1 inch too far forward, and you ruin a session, right? So, I'm not very particular about my gear and what I ride. I know what feels good and I know what I like, but I'll just go out and be like, okay, whatever, I'm riding this. This is what's in my car, and I'll take whatever. With downwinding, it's made me a lot more specific on what kind of gear I want to ride, because I've had so many bad sessions downwinding that I know it was, you know, for sure it was me, but the equipment had a huge play in how I was performing.
Yeah.
You know,
matching the speed of the bumps with what you're riding is so, but it's good. It makes you a better foiler. You learn the gear better. You learn what works, and you get in tune with whatever you're riding.
Yeah. So it took me probably like 35 days straight of being on the sup board, surfing it, flat water, and then doing runs. Sometimes multiple sessions a day, trying to surf waves. And surfing the waves was easy. After 2 days, I was like, I've got this sup thing. You know, I just like pop, pop. And you go into the swell, and it's just like totally different. You know, it just, everything changes. And it's not even the same thing. And even to this day, I mean, I haven't picked up a paddle in who knows how long.
Same. But, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. But and when I was, it was always like, okay, am I going to be able to do this? Is today my day? And then there's always, you know, you're always learning something, and, you know, getting your heart rate up to 195 and then trying to get on foil and then trying to stay on foil. You know, it's like, it's nerve wracking being 2 miles offshore. I didn't feel very uncomfortable, and there was only like 1 or 2 sessions that I felt like, oh wow, I'm not in trouble, but I felt, you know, not at ease,
vulnerable.
And so I felt comfortable out there. I was like, I just did 4-mile runs, just not on foil, you know, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, right?
Floats.
Just floating down. And maybe I'd get like little success, maybe I'd learn something, and yeah, there's a lot of swearing involved in that. But then once you get it, it's like, oh my God, like that's all you want to do is downwind, you know, even like winging, it's a condition, right? But if there's good conditions to wing, guaranteed it's good conditions to downwind, I'm definitely going to try to get a downwind run, even if it's going to be 35 minutes and take me 4 hours to shuttle back and forth and meet up with my friends and wait for them to get out of work. It's like, I definitely want to go downwind. Like, it's just the most satisfying thing that I've done on a foil. And you just learn. I mean, if people that are listening to this don't downwind, I mean, I don't even know if you're getting what your foil can give you.
Yeah,
you know,
it's so
because
weird,
you don't understand it.
Having no, for sure. Like having it powered by a kite or a wing, I mean, you can have a lot of fun with it, but I think you get in tune with your gear when like you're proning, so you don't have anything powering you. But then that's a limited time on foil, which is what you were talking about. But then you go downwinding and you go for miles. Oh, you just understand what it was made for. You're like, okay,
like this is what a foil was made for. Like it was made to do this. Is what it feels like. And when you go to like, we do these events, the AWSI is a big water sports convention event where all the brands go and you test out all the gear, and you're right there at the event site. It's flat. So you're like grabbing wing gear and you're going out, and, you know, I test out 5 foils. I don't even know what I'm testing, you know, like speed, you know, can I get the wingtips out? Does it turn nice? But when you're powered up with a wing or you're behind a kite, you can just overpower anything, right? It's so hard to like feel those nuances of what a foil can give you if you're not freestanding on a wave or downwinding, right? So proning and downwinding that's the only way you can really feel what a foil can give you, right? Unless you're like in crucial waves and you're towing or winging into it. But on flat water, I have a hard time testing foils in flat water, winging around. I just every foil feels great. Just like it goes fast, it goes straight, it turns, it's got low end. Exactly. So it really, when you get it onto a wave or you're downwinding or that's when you feel what a foil can really do.
I love that, man. And that background is so important for people to understand, because I feel like everything that you've done in the past gives you a good edge on like cracking the code of a Parawing now.
Yeah.
The kite control that you have is very intuitive. Like I've put the Parawing into the hands of people who are kiters, and I feel that within 30 seconds they're like, okay, I understand what's happening, and you can see that they can at least keep it under control. And then people that wing or prone, like they're holding the Parawing and they're trying to turn it. And I'm like, mate, just hold the rear lines. Like, and a kiter has that instinct of like, all right, okay, this is how the bar is reacting. And I feel that is such an advantage, man, to have those sports in your toolkit to just say, okay, I could do this. And then doing jibes, right? Okay, how do you jibe with a kite? How do you tack with a kite? They're very similar moves.
Yeah. I wonder if it's easier for somebody to come from a winging background to Parawing versus a kiting only, because coming from kiting to learn how to wing, it's already a difficult feat. And then you go from kiting to learning how to Parawing. Sure, the Parawing's more kite-like because it's got lines and, you think it flies. It doesn't really fly. It's just sitting there, right? So you know how to handle it, and you're not scared of the lines, right? Lines are scary. Like you fall into it, you can, they get tangled, and people are all worried about how do I untangle that? You're like, right?
But even knowing the gear, right? You coming from a kite background, you set up your gear with your eyes closed now, and you know how the structure is meant to look. Sometimes I see people riding with their lines just messed up, and like, dude, that's probably why it's not working. And it's like, oh yeah. But it's so...
That's funny.
I feel because for you, it feels so natural that I don't even know if you realize how much of an advantage that you have over people. And I think in the beginning...
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
My friends, I've had probably half the sessions that some people have had, and they're like, oh, damn you, Dylan. Like I'm riding around, driving, I'm just waiting for them to get up, and they're like, this guy. So a lot of people, they're telling me, they're like, oh man, I just can't believe how you handle that thing. And it's so intuitive, that it's like, it doesn't feel difficult to fly. And before I even saw it, I knew how to fly it. I'm like, well, that's simple.
From like, did you ride two-line kites back in the day?
No, that was before my time.
Yeah.
Okay. I started in 2008, 9.
What was that?
When I started kiting?
Kites, the first bow kites?
Yeah, bow kites, yeah. So they're 4 lines. They had safeties. They, they didn't have to reel anything in. You didn't have to, So it was pretty easy and safe by then. And I think from 2015 onwards is where kind of like it took a turn and it got a lot easier, from there.
Yeah, there was a landmark in kite surfing where it went from like just the worst gear, the worst relaunching capabilities to then being like, everybody could do this now.
Yeah, super easy. How long have you been kiting?
I have a very similar story to you. I didn't start kite surfing. I started wakeboarding. So I have like a motorsports background. When I was a teenager, I just used to race, and that was my life. I love that thing. But super cost prohibitive sport, so I just had to stop, and then started wakeboarding with a few friends. And then got into kite surfing because I'm like, I want to boost on a wakeboard. And then I'm like, wow, on a kite surf, man, you can, jump and have this enormous hang time. So I was really captivated by that. And like I remember Space Monkeys, all those like really old movies. And I'm like, oh my God, these guys doing these insane board offs and all that stuff. So then I got into kite surfing. I'm originally from Brazil and born and bred in Brazil, and then came to Australia, moved to Australia after uni, and then lived the rest of my life here, never went back home. And there was a really good kite surfing spot where I live, so did that, and it was an amazing experience to kite here, and loved it. We were heavily into kind of unhooking and wake style, and that's all we wanted to do. We were very narrow-minded. We would, kite in probably 300 meter by 300 meter, like what we called the kiddie pool, because it was flat and you're a pier and just like that was it. And then one of my mates,
when was this? Like, when did you learn how to kite?
Well, I came to Australia in 2008, just like you. Yeah. So that's my first year here. So I learned in Brazil, had a few lessons, but never really picked it up and had it like riding consistently or anything like that. So it took me a while to become a kite surfer. I had a few kite lessons, and then when I came here, that's when I think I really got into it and like went every day. And one of the guys that kited here in our spot, he was a professional kite surfer. You might know him, Ewan Jaspin, works for Nash now. And we were always just following whatever he was doing, and he was just into wake style and all that stuff. So that's what we did. And then one season he brought a foil, and we were all laughing. We're like, oh God, that's what all the old guys in the Bay do. They did the racing gear, and we were making him have a hard time on it. But then, eventually, I think not even that season, the following one, I tried it, and he taught me, which was really helpful to have a professional kite surfer teach you how to foil. And then once I started foiling, I never touched the twin tip again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn.
It was really quick. I was like, I had probably 2 sessions after I started kite foiling on a twin tip, and I was completely hooked, and the bay just opened up from that little spot that we were in. I would get the foil, and then I would explore the bay, and I'm like, oh my God, like, what are you guys doing in there? Like, just locked in to this little part of the bay, and I was just exploring little bits of the bay where the bumps pick up, and like trying to surf it. And on a kite foil, it's not ideal, but it's still fun. Like, you can still throw that thing around, and I think the time on foil made that evolution be very quick. If you're kite foiling for an hour, you're on foil for like 55 minutes. It's huge. And then wing foiling came around, and again, I had a very bad impression of it initially, but I got into it and loved it. And then that, to me, was my initiation into surfing with a foil, going downwind and doing little runs. And then obviously I started to get into proning. I think proning still today is like this thing that is above all else, that's a little bit unattainable for me. Very similar to you. I don't have a surfing background or anything, and foiling got me into surfing. I started going to the wave pool to practice pop-ups because I didn't know how to do that properly. And I still suck in proning. I have shocking sessions out there, but the 1 or 2 waves that you get are worth it, and I still love it.
Yeah.
And then downwind.
Do you sup surf a bunch then versus proning, or?
I do now, because I learned how to do sup paddle, downwinding, and that was a very similar journey to you. Like, ate shit for a long time. Didn't know how to paddle, had to learn how to do a J stroke, and didn't even know what that was. I'm like, what is a J stroke? And
still don't know what that is.
Oh, dude, it was such a hard, and I would just throw myself. And there was 3 guys doing it here in the Bay, and they were kind of doing it already. So I would go into the downwinders that they were doing, and I would just float for like 2 hours and get on foil for 50 meters, and like would be stoked on it. I'm like, I can see this working, and then did that for a little while, and then the Parawing came out, and then things completely changed for me. Yeah.
You have the same impression about the Parawing when it first came out? You were like, nah.
No, the Parawing, no.
I thought there was going to be a pattern here.
No, look, I think I learned from my mistakes after 4 years or whatever it has been. Like, I think for me, when I saw the Pocket Rocket, was the first time that the Pocket Wing.
Yeah.
was the first time that I kind of got interested in the space. And my son has a little trainer kite. And then I got that, just held onto the bridles, and I tried to get up on the downwind board, and I could feel the power. Like, that first time that you feel the power of the thing. And I'm like, oh my God, there's maybe enough to get up. But it's a double skin trainer kite. It fell in the water. It got wet. Like, it didn't last long, but I never thought about it again. And I think they were so close to cracking that code with that product. And to this day, I'm so amazed that like a 5% improvement on the gear, which I think, was the double handles to the one handle, and obviously some of the structure as well, made it completely change for me. So when I saw the BRM for the first time, whenever it launched September last year, I saw the videos. I watched the videos maybe like 5 or 6 times, and I'm like, oh my God, they're going upwind. And I think that to me was a big one. And then I bought it within 10 minutes of watching it. I just said, I need this thing. I copped it, full price, full shipping, full tax, ate it, and didn't regret it at all.
I was in Maui the day it launched.
Oh my God.
So
people were on the water with it? You saw it live? Like you saw it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So my buddy, so Walt, he did have the pocket wing.
Mm-hmm.
Right, he had one in the back of the van. It was always there, and I don't know why it didn't click. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And Sinbad was always on these runs with us, and she's like popping out her parachute. She's got this parachute that is attached to her vest, and she's just like rocketing out downwind and paddling, and this thing's fucking flying all over the place. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I did not know how she can handle that. And it's blowing like 30. But like these Kihei runs that are on the other side, they're not on the north coast. The Maliko is a little bit more rough, but on that side, it's like dead offshore.
Yeah.
So it's flat. So you got to paddle for a while to get out to some bumps. And then eventually you see people trying to start, and get up because the bumps are building, and some people try too early and you get like, tired. So you're like, okay, I'll paddle another 500 meters out. And then Sinbad's out there just like, poof, and like going out. Cool, so I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I'm gonna try the pocket wing, So I took my downwind board, I took my paddle with the camera on it, right? So I'm kneeling on my paddle, so my camera's out, and I'm like, we taped the 2 handles together because 2 handles were just
I was gonna say, how does it feel? Like, what's that feeling of a double handle?
The double handle? I mean, if you're freestanding and you're trying to go sideways, like. We were just trying to go straight downwind, right? You're like this, and you're like trying to go straight downwind, which is just not a good idea. You just don't have any resistance. And now we know that from trying to Parawing, every day and watching people learning, right? So I was just trying to go straight downwind and popping this thing. This thing's flying all over the place. It's like catching on my camera, like just, Parawing, and it'll snag on, you got an earring, it'll snag on it 100%, like whatever those lines can snag on, they will. So it was just a bad idea. And so I eventually packed it up, I put it away, and I paddled up and went on my run. And then that evening, that's when like the BRM launched, or it was in the morning or something. And I looked at it, and it was my last 2 days in Maui. And I was like, holy shit.
I know.
I'm like, that's the thing. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. Like, and the upwind ability of it, like watching them ride around, it didn't captivate me as much. I was just like, dude, that's epic for downwinding, right? Like that's what it's for. Like pop it up, get out, have a little bit more control, pack it away and go. And I don't know, maybe it's the way that they launched it, the video, maybe it was the way that they were riding it. It just looked like you wanted to do that.
It looked easy.
Yeah, the pocket wing, I just never. Easy. Maybe it's because I didn't see a marketing video that was done right, or maybe they were flying it differently, or whatever it was. It just never, should have seen it earlier. Everyone else should have seen it earlier, right?
Yeah, exactly. The whole market should have seen it earlier. All the brands should have seen that and said, "Oh my God, it's just like a little increment from that, and we're there."
Yeah.
So hats off to Greg for that one. He was such a visionary.
Super cool.
All of them, really.
And so I went to the beach, because I know that's where he wings around. I went there and I drove in my van. I just sat there and I'm like, do you know Greg? Do you know Greg? Do you know Greg?
I love that.
And I emailed him. I'm like, where's Greg? I'm like, I want to try this thing, you know, but I mean, little did I know he was getting thousands of orders, or hundreds, you know, at least in the first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So he's like, there's like this kid that wants to demo my BRM. He's like, dude, just buy it online, you know, and you know, if I can't sell something in my shop and it's not something that I can present to my clients, I'm a little bit apprehensive of buying it. So when it first came out, it wasn't like, here's my money. I know I wanted to do it. And I was like, you know, but I can't sell it in my shop. And are they going to be accessible? Is it going to be a thing? You know, am I going to spend my money and my time invested into this for my shop and for what I'm doing in the future? Right. So it didn't like hit me right then and there that it's definitely something I have to get into, and it's going to be something in my future and for the shop. So I didn't buy one, and I did fly one on the beach a little bit. And then we went to Kihei and there was 6 guys that had them. Oh, I'm like, where'd you get those? They're like, dude, you just buy them online.
You're like,
I'm like, damn it, I know. I should have done that too.
I kind of want to try one.
Yeah, so we watched them all take off, and I mean, they just like pop up. They were going downwind. They packed it away, and away they went. And they were just on their downwind boards, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, and then you know, you start to wonder, and you're like, well, what's the point, right? I've got this bag. Like, what if it falls? And you know, all these things run through your head, which it always does. Like all of these questions always run through my head. And then, you know, when you start to see people using it with smaller boards, and you can use a smaller foil, and then you start to see them, you know, getting out from places that you can't paddle out from. And, you know, all those things, your life's like, oh, yeah, I gotta do it. But that day that the BRM launched, the Parawing, I ordered a Peak. A Fly Surfer Peak.
Surfer,
yeah. So I've got an account with them. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to buy a Peak.
Convert
it's cheaper. Yeah. No bar. Just bought it, and it arrived. And when I got home, I just chopped off all the bridles.
Nice.
Like had a carbon bar that I drilled holes into and vertically, you know, connected all the A's to B's and tied it up and made them different lengths. And it worked. You know, it would fly. I've got a video of me doing it. Nice. And I went out on my downwind board, and I was able to get up, and it would go upwind really well.
Working.
And then to like put it away was just a disaster. And then I had like a couple bad sessions, and I just like threw it in the bin. I was like, no. I'm like, I'm going to buy a real Parawing.
Yeah,
I think this is just not worth it.
The amount of time. There's a guy here that I'm actually going to post a video. We've been mucking around with the Peak as well, to the point where we cut the canopy. We took some panels off, so
really?
We wouldn't have, you know, that kind of C-shaped kite. That it really needs a little bit less canvas there, and now it's like a 1.8 little square, and it's working so well, that thing now. Every day we go to the beach and tweak it. But to your point, like the amount of effort that you put into it, you might as well just get something.
Yeah, but it was only BRM, right? So you're like, oh well, if this guy did it, this thing's the same, right? And then you realize very quickly that they're not all the same, and they're all a little bit different. And the Peak is just, you know, it's just way too high aspect. Yeah, you know, it just flies way too far in the window. You've just got no load on it. You know, if you're up and getting up and going, and you're going upwind, it's great. You know, it works great. But if you want to pack it up, or you want any load or power, you just need too big of a wing for it to make sense, right? So.
And what was your first session on the? So your first session was obviously on this Peak, but then you got a BRM eventually, or how did that go?
No, I never ordered a BRM. I think it was maybe it was a month and a half after I was home, and then we had the AWSI event.
Yep.
So I went to AWSI, and I was talking to North. I'm like, hey guys, where's your Parawing? You know, the moment BRM came out, I'm like, hey, I think this is going to be a thing. We should look into it. And they're like, oh, you know, we have this in our garage. We've been working on it for months, but it wasn't really a Parawing. Essentially what North was designing was a tow kite. So it was like same thing. It was very similar. It was very low aspect.
Yeah.
It was a horizontal bar.
Okay.
And you'd like take it out of this backpack that they designed for it. You take it out, and you you shoot it up and you drag yourself back to shore in case your wing broke in half, in case something happened. It was essentially they were just they were designing a safety device, and it was called the tow kite, and it was you could get up on foil on it if you wanted to, but it really wasn't their design aspect. It was more like a safety device that you could have in your backpack. It's super low profile, shoot it up and drag yourself back to shore if you needed to, kind of thing.
So interesting.
And it wasn't, I don't know if they were serious about it or what, but they were designing it, and it was in the back of their mind that this was going to maybe be something that they could use, like a little parachute. So when I got to AWSI, one of the designers, a couple of designers had it. And so I went straight to them. I'm like, hey, that's for me.
Give me that.
Like, I think you guys brought that for me. And they gave it to me. They're like, well, no one else is going to ride it. And so I just shot that up, and I did a couple runs in Hood River with it, and had a horizontal bar. And I was like, well, it worked, you know. I was like, and there was some tension issues with the bridles and stuff that we tweaked. And I talked to the designers we were on FaceTime trying to figure out how to tweak it to see what was wrong with it or how we could improve it. And, that's how North was really early on with it, because they already had something designed. They already had the chute. They already had everything. How cool. They just had to tweak all of the bridles and then change up the design aspect a little bit and make the leading edge a little bit, pocket it a little bit more, a little bit more beefy. And there was a lot of different designs that they went through, but it was nice that right away they had something that I could use and then directly give feedback and be like, oh, cool, we're moving forward with this,
How cool, man. Yeah.
So I did that. And then my buddy Walt had every size. He had like a 6, a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1. So
he went nuts and just got it all. Nice. I like Walt.
Yeah. Walt,
kind of guy.
Walt is, he's always all in. So now he's got all the flows,
Yeah.
And, he's always all in. He was the one with the pocket wing. Like he was like, well, fuck it. He's like, he bought it, never used it, but he's like, maybe this is something. And I think he used it a couple times in Hood, because Hood's a little bit of a different scenario. It's pretty easy there.
Work there, I think.
Yeah. So he used it a couple times, and then he sold it eventually. When he got the BRM, he's like, there's no way I'm going to use that, right?
Yeah.
And it was strictly for downwinding, right? There was no talk about going upwind or using it instead of a wing, right? It was like, we're like, nah, no way we're going to use this instead of a wing. Like, that was our first thought, because me and Walt, we talk all the time on the phone. He's essentially my co-host, of the podcast. So we're always like,
what are we doing?
What are we doing? Yeah. What's going to be the future? And it's awesome because you don't know.
You don't know, but it's so cool to be able to bounce some ideas with someone, because I'm sure he has his own vision of where things go, and then you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. And
he foils way more than I do. That guy.
He has a similar background, like kite foiler, winger.
He's not. He wasn't into it as early, so he was like a mediocre kiter, and then he got into kite foiling, and then when winging came out, he never touched a kite again.
Yeah,
it was just straight wing foiling, and then proning a little bit. He never like totally dialed it in and spent as much time as me and Arlen did.
Yeah.
But the winging, he was all in, and then now foil drive came out, and you're essentially proning with a power source, It's nothing better than that. Towing, he bought a jet ski, so lots of foiling, and it's just that's all he does. And he went through all the brands I did. My shop's evolution of foil brands is Walt's, and my evolution of foil brands and what we went through and what we're riding now is because of discovery, right? And what we essentially want to ride, which is really cool to have him by my side and testing and giving his feedback, So if Walt wants to ride it, then I definitely want to ride it and want to sell it, because he's pretty particular. It's not like he's better than me at foiling, but he's just so, I don't know. That's all he wants to do all the time. It's just foil. And I wish I had that much time.
Yeah. It's very addictive, man. Once you get in, I think especially when you get into downwinding, that kind of mind state that you're in when you're downwinding and being on foil for so long and in a critical kind of way where you don't want to come down. It's just so cool. And then when you master that and coming down is not an issue anymore, and you start turning and you start generating speed from the waves and trying not to pump. I saw that video the other day that you posted about not pumping.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love going out and say, I'm going to come down and I'm not going to pump. And how do I work out a way to keep speed? And I think the parawinging helped me so much with that, because I didn't have a paddle to pump paddle out of a hole and everything. So, and with the parawing, I think I also didn't care if I fell, because I knew I was going to get up. With the paddle and a small foil, I was like, oh, this might take me 20 minutes, you know? And if I had a few goes at a flat, like at paddle ups, I might not even paddle the thing up anymore because I'm cooked, you know?
Yeah.
So that kind of really changed the game for me, and how I approach a downwinder today. I see guys really keen on acing runs and things like that. I don't care if I ace a run anymore. Like, if you do that a few times, cool. But now I'm really trying to perfect my turns and focusing on turns, and just like the other day I just went out and I was carving the 980S from Code. That I just ride the S series. I love them. And I wanted to see how sharp I could turn, because I had a extra small fuse on, and I was literally just turning and falling on my butt because I wanted to see the radius of the turn. And I would never have done that on a paddle and paddle up 10 times consecutively. So
yeah,
just made it really,
in Hood
really
River
good.
you would.
In Hood River. I'm going to Hood River. I bought my ticket yesterday, man.
Oh, really?
First time I'm going to Hood. Never been. Like 2 years that I've been like, this is the year, and for whatever reason couldn't make it. And yeah, I'm going down on the 14th to the 31st of July.
Oh, cool.
And I'm frothing on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. You've been there a couple times?
Yeah. Walt will be down there. He rented a house, I think, for a whole year.
Amazing.
Starting this summer. He's going to make it home base.
Oh,
it just doesn't get much better than that for downwinding and parawinging. It's just insane.
What do you guys ride there? Like, what's the in terms of foil? Do you change a little bit your foil size because it's fresh water and just weird conditions, or not really?
No, you don't need to be on anything very fast. You know, you don't need to be on a downwind foil. So, I mean, essentially, if you're on the S, you're on like a surf foil. That's pretty much what you want to be on.
Yeah,
you can be on a small surf foil and just rip the crap out of these waves. You know, it depends like where you are in the river. There are different bends that get like, you know, a little bit flatter, and the bumps are, you know, smaller, so you might have to work. But then again, now if you're on a parawing, you could link different sections together that you know are going to be flat. So there's places like they're like, oh, this is a good run because this is where it's all stacked up, and then from here it gets a little bit flat, but then here it stacks up again, right? There's different sections in the river where the current is, and I wouldn't know what to say, or I wouldn't know how to tell you, but the locals must know.
Yeah. I'm just curious to know if, like, do we even need to go downwinding on the parawing there, or could you just hit one of those little areas where it's picking up and just do upwind and downwind?
Yeah,
because the current's going the other way, so I'm in my head like going upwind would be a little bit easier there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I haven't experienced it because I only did a couple, you know, maybe 4 parawing runs when I was there in September. And then, I haven't been back. So I haven't thought about what my logistics would look like. But over there, man, it's just, the shuttling is so easy.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even want to waste your energy going back upwind on a parawing. You just get out, you jump in a car that's running up. It depends. I guess it depends on the season or how many people are there, but there's just, if it's a good day, there's 15, 20 people or more downwinding, and there's just cars going up and down. The road is here and the river is here. Like, and it's a straight line, you know? So it's like, you don't have to do like these long logistics. Like, you drop off, you get in the river. You get out of the river, you get in, and you're like,
a break after, you know, going downwind in those freaking awesome
so,
bumps.
Yeah, I guess if you're parawinging, you can ride it upwind. I guess, yeah. I mean, you can go to like the Hatchery and Swell City right around there and just go up and, you know, try to surf it as long as you want all the way down, it's probably, I don't know, 6-7 minutes of downwinding,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then you wing back up and do it again.
Yeah,
It's definitely
try it all.
something.
Yeah. I just can't wait to get there now.
Yeah, it's a fun spot for sure.
So tell us a little bit about what you have in the background there. I want to, you probably used like basically most of the Parawings out there today and have a lot of experience in riding different Parawings and how they feel.
Yeah. I haven't had a ton of Parawing sessions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just as addicted as everybody else, and we haven't had the best season here for wind, so it's been a little bit tough to get out in the right times and then have the wings at the right time. So it's waiting for Parawings at some times, didn't have them available, so it's been difficult to be able to use them as often as I want to. I have tried, I've got the North over here, I've got the Flow, the NSYS, the BRM, and then the Wave Star from Born. And the only one that I haven't used is I actually haven't even used the NSYS. I haven't even had to try. I haven't even got the chance to try it. It's a 3 meter. We haven't had that much wind. Yeah. So I might, in Puerto Rico, I've probably downwinding. I've done 4 downwinders with the Parawing, and then winging it around and like testing them out in the bay. Maybe another 10, and that's about the extent of my Parawing, to be honest. And
you got it quick though, man. Like, your progression's been quick. But you do feel, well, the North is not out yet, right? Are they coming out with it soon, or? Yeah,
so it should be. I mean, they're on their way, so they should be hitting stores April, first week of April, second week, I'd hope. Kind of like,
I've seen you out with it for a while. How does that one feel?
Yeah, so maybe I have done more sessions. I feel like I haven't done that many because I want to be out there every day. So maybe it's been 50, but it feels like I've only been out there 10 times. So maybe I have been out more, but it feels like I haven't really got the chance to really explore the Parawing yet because I just haven't had as much time as I want to on them. The North, I had the early, it was like one of their second or third iterations of it, and I had it. And I spent some time on it, winging it around. I did a downwinder on it. And there was something with the bridles on one of the edges. They were a little bit too short, so they sent me new bridles. And the moment that the new bridles arrived for their new configuration to just make it 3% better, I lost it. So,
dude, what was that? Who told me that? I think Dave West told me that. And I'm like, nah, you can't lose a Parawing.
You can lose a Parawing, yeah.
How did that happen?
So I was on the south side, and we were just sending downwind runs. It's a short run, and I was just messing around. I was trying to wing up because these guys were learning how to Parawing. So I was like, okay, I'll do a downwinder, I'll pop it up, and I'll go upwind back to them and like downwind again and go up. And I was just doing a bunch of just crap, silly things, and I was falling all over the place, and I was just like yard sale. So on one of them, I fell, I came over, I almost landed on my foil. It was like a taco kind of situation in a turn. And I let go of the Parawing, and my hat came off. My board's, somewhere else. I like swim back to my board. I get on it. I swim back upwind to get my hat. I put it on, and I turn around. I'm sitting on my board, and I look, and my Parawing's just taking off. And I'm like, what the
flying?
Fuck?
Like,
no, just air. Like in the water, the leading edge was just propped up like this into the wind. Just all the sails were just propped up, and all the lines in the bar were just sitting on the trailing edge on the back of the wing.
It's like as if someone was holding it.
It was just propped like this, and it was just like, it was just going.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God. So I got on my board. It was a 70-liter little mid-length, and I just paddled as fast as I could, and it felt like hours. It was probably 5 minutes, and I just chased it, and I was like getting a little bit closer and a little bit closer, but it just didn't feel like I was getting close enough.
Yeah.
there was no way I could grab it. So I'm like, oh man, I'm just running out of energy here. I don't know how much longer I can swim like this. So I sat on my board to give myself a break, and it just kept on going. And I had one of my instructors who was down there doing winging downwinds, and he's just winging around, and I'm just like, hey, hello, you're the only one that can help me. Everyone else is on downwind boards and Parawings, and he's just winging around, and he's downwind, and he's winging. And he like goes past me, and then he wings upwind. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, bro. So I'm like, okay, well, so I start swimming again. And then I'm like not getting closer. So I look, and he's, winging to the beach, and I'm waving at him. He gets to the beach, he deflates his wing, and I see him walk up. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, bro. I was like, God damn it. So then
you can lose a Parawing.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure there's other stories out there of people getting into waves and them sinking, and like,
I thought it was in a wave situation,
getting taken off, but no.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like a bay, where we were, and the Parawing was shooting towards the end of it, like to a point. I'm like, fuck it. So I just swam. It was like I was a mile offshore. So I swam back into the beach, dropped my board, and ran down the beach. And it's that the end of that little bay, it's surrounded by a reef. And on the inside, it's all shallow grass. It's like knee deep. It's a beautiful kite spot. It's like just butter flat. All the waves stop at the reef. And I'm like, did it shoot past it? Did it come into the, I just didn't know where it was. And I was trying to figure out where I was. And I just definitely just came in to right where the reef is, and just the waves just munched it up, and it just never to be seen again. So I drove home, and then the next morning I went back. Like, you know what? I didn't give it enough of a look, right? So I went back. It's an 1.5-hour drive. So I drove back to the south side, and I got booties on, and I just walked around the reef, for 5 miles, up and down. And I was like, there's just no way. There's just nowhere.
There you go. Maybe, I never wear a leash on my Parawing.
I
hate it.
I still wouldn't.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was a freak. Like the way it held its shape. I mean, the chances of that happening, Dylan, really,
very slim. Yeah. So I would just say, next, because man, I fell hundreds of times, not a big deal. It just sits there. If anything, it's going to slowly start sinking. It's not going to get away from you. So now I know that when I fall, just grab the Parawing first, and then gather up your things, your phone, wallet, keys. Yeah. First the Parawing.
Oh, well, I'm I don't know. People ask me about safety and what to do with the Parawing. I'm a big advocate to if anything happens, I don't want to be attached to it at all. Not that it would. It's so, if something happens to the Parawing, you're probably too close to whatever you're getting messed up in anyway. Yeah. But it's not like a kite that you have, 24-meter lines that you could snag on a tree or something. So I just don't have a leash like you. I like to take all the tangle hazards out of the way. So I never hook in. I stopped hooking in as well. I don't have a little harness hook, because that as well gets hooked onto the lines. Yeah. No coil leash. The coil leash is just a mess with the Parawing. All these little things, and even the harness line that you have on the bar, when you're stowing it or stuff like that, it's just another thing that's going to get tangled on those bridles very easily.
There's so many little tidbits of information and tips and tricks, and to go all through them all, we're all still learning, right? Yeah. You can have your list, and then you can be very specific, right? Of your taste and what you want to do and how you want to use it, and what equipment you want to use to minimize, tangling or whatever. But essentially, if anybody's, got the chance to just grab a Parawing, don't worry if you have a coiled leash. Just go out and do it. I had someone contact me the other day. He's like, hey man, I want to get a Parawing, but everyone around me says I 100% need a downwind board or a MIDI, or I'm not going to be able to do it. And I'm like, there's no way. Your soap bar that's 110 liters, it'll work. It is not optimal. That's 100% true. And I would not stick with that if you're going to be a Parawinger, but
you'll experience it though.
Go ahead.
Get you up.
Yeah. I think that's better than doing it on a downwind board almost.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think any winger, if you own a wingboard, whatever literage it is, like just chuck on your biggest foil and get a comparable sized Parawing and start having a crack. Get a demo, like maybe start on a longer board from a shop. Like I'm sure you have demos out there. Like you could do your first session on that, and then once you kind of understand, you know, the hand handling and just water relaunch and just how to, you know, understand your quiver, then start on your gear. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things that's going to happen to wingers. Like everybody's like, I don't want to buy a downwind board. I don't want to buy a paddle. I don't want to have to learn all that stuff, because that's like a 6-month journey at least. Yeah. And they always complain about just going out, having a session versus the shuttling, all that stuff that, you know, wingers like to complain about. And with the Parawing, dude, grab it, use the same gear that you're on, chuck on your biggest foil, and you'll start to understand how the thing works.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that complicated. People make it sound a lot more complicated than it is, but you just got to go out and have sessions. Everything's hard. You know, if you want to learn how to downwind, like with a paddle, that's hard. Yeah. You know, parawinging is not hard. You know? But you just have to understand the risk of everything, right? You have to understand the risk and reward and how hard it is, but how rewarding it can be, right? It's all the same with all these sports.
Do you want to talk about these Parawings, or do you want to stay a little neutral on them? I'm not sure if you want to talk about them.
You know, there are some that are better than others, and then if I've only had, you know, 3 sessions on the Born Kite and 5 on this, and, you know, maybe 6 on the Flow, and the North I've probably spent the most time on testing through different iterations and trying to get footage and stuff with it now. As I'm quite involved with North, just because I sell in my shop, and I love the brand and the people behind it, so I want their stuff to be as good as it can be. And I'm just very enthusiastic, and I just like to see if I can help them in any way, you know, with their downwind foils, their Parawing. I just, throw it to me. I'll give you advice. I'll, you know, show you what's good, what's bad. And I try to be, you know, as honest as possible, right? With them, especially. You know, I was really excited to get the Flow, because looking at it and how it performs, and everyone's going to be a little bit different in how they want to use the Parawing and their skill level, right? So here, let's say I had 6 people. So I want to compare the Flow and the North, you know, so they're both different. The Flow, it's hard to say. It's probably my favorite to date. Like, it's just, for me and my ability and going upwind and tacking it, I like it and how it performs. But its low end isn't amazing for us here in Puerto Rico, so we need to use a bigger Parawing.
Gotcha.
So if I had like 6 people and they're beginners, or they're a little bit more experienced, and I hand them the Flow and then the North. The North is more, it's easier to get up on foil. It's more powerful. It's grunty. It's easier to pack away. The lines are a little bit shorter. So it kind of feels like a truck.
Yeah.
Like the 4.2 that I have here, it pulls just as much as the 6-meter BRM. It's insane. So then, you know, taking out the 4.2 compared to the 4.2 Flow, I mean, that North thing will just rip my arms off at one point. You know, trying to go upwind, you're like holding it as hard as you can on the leading edge. It gets a little bit of like deformation. It kind of the leading edge itself buckles. It doesn't fold in half, but it gets like a little bit too much pressure when you're trying to push it too hard upwind. Yeah. So it gets a little bit deformed in the leading edge, and then it starts to lean back into the window. So you start to lose your upwind ability, and it kind of shoots a little bit. So you got to lean off of it, veer off, and you have to be very careful of how much pressure and how much load you put on it. So it goes upwind really well, and it's powerful. It's easy to get up. And so for downwinders, if I'm just going to go downwind, I'm going to go out. If I need a little bit of an angle, it's great. Then I'll take the North, because it's so easy to pack up. It's got no battens in it. It's more powerful, so I know I'm going to get up on it.
On the leading edge, there's no those little plastic.
No, nothing. So it's unstructured, which is really nice. It's just easy to use. But it's a little bit more low aspect. Right, it's not going upwind as well. But then you get on the flow and you give it to somebody that doesn't know how to handle it. It is a little bit more difficult. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't have this low end grunt. There's just not much. The middle of the canopy, just I don't feel like it's giving me much grunt and power. You can pull on it, which is nice.
Yeah,
and
you
once
can
you're
pump a little more.
Yeah, and once you're up on foil, it's just dreamy.
Yeah,
like the way that you can depower it and how much you can put it upwind. So I mean, personal preference for me, the flow right now for the amount of time that I've had on these Parawings is, I mean, it takes the cake.
Yeah,
for me and how I want to use it, because I do want to, like, when I go out to wing here, my house is 3 blocks from the beach. I have everything in my van. I bought a mama van and I just put it all in there. And so when I want to go foiling, I just grab my mid-length, I grab a foil, put a Parawing on my backpack.
How good is that?
I put 2 of them just in case. I don't know how the wind's going to be. So I put like a 4-2 north and then a 4-2 flow. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I go to the beach and I just walk into the water with it on my back, paddle out a little bit. And I just like pull it out, pop it up. And it just feels so simple and
it's
easy.
so minimal. It's so minimal.
Right?
There's no pumping, no lines.
I know, but it just, even all of that is not that difficult, right? We start to get lazy.
It's
right?
not that difficult, but it's kind of like the
it's
feeling
just
you
an
have when you
added
go
thing.
surfing. It's an added thing, and like the simplicity of surfing, where you just go out, wax your board, and you're going out. And speaking from a surfer here, you know what I mean? Like that simplicity is so cool, and there's something to it that makes the sport a little bit more enjoyable. I don't care, man. I'm used to setting up my kite and putting my lines out, so it's not a thing. But when I started using the Parawing, I was like, am I missing something? Like, is that all? This is all I need, right? Yeah, no bar, no nothing. It's all attached, all ready to go. And our spot here, we have a lot of cross on wind, so I also don't walk into the water with it, but offshore or cross winds would be fine doing that. And then a little paddle, boom, it's up, and I just find it so minimal. I love it. That's really cool, man. I think that's a really good kind of overview on those wings. And I think what you said there is really important. Like, how are you going to use it, and the intent of what you're going to use it for is really important. I haven't tried the North. I'm really keen to try it once it comes out. I think it's going to be an awesome wing as well. Like, we have the Ozone that just came out as well. That looks very similar to the Flow, and the characteristics of it looks very similar to the Flow. Yeah. Both paragliding companies. So I think there's going to be that DNA of a paraglider in them. But I feel the BRM, for what I've experienced, is still the best one to pack down. There's something about that material, like the silkiness. It's not a kite crispy feel. Yeah, it's a different feel, and I feel that material is so nice to pack down.
Yeah, I think it probably just doesn't have this like waxy water repellent coating on it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't like slip out of your hands. It kind of feels like, I used to skydive back in the day. When you get a brand new parachute and you try to pack it up, it's like, it's like popping out all over the place. It feels like when it comes out of the bag, it almost feels like a used parachute. Like it's already been kind of worn in. Doesn't have this like repelling aspect to it. So it's not slippery. And I don't know what it is. Maybe they don't coat it with something, or the material is.
I think it's a different material. Yeah. I know the Flow uses paragliding stuff, because obviously they have access to all that material. I'm not sure what the Ozone is going to come out like, but I think it's a different brand of canvas. Yeah.
All of these things are like super slippery.
Yeah. The Ensis, all of the other ones are very kite-like, aren't they?
Yeah. And this one has pretty thick battens in it.
Yeah.
The Ensis.
I feel like and I've ridden the 3 in the middle there. So the Flow, the Ensis, and the VRM. And I feel like I'm not sure about longevity yet. It's very hard to tell what's going to last versus what's not going to last. But if you're using the Parawing just to do downwinders, and you're not someone who's going to be mowing the lawn or doing tacks or doing like exploring different things, I feel like they've overcooked how how they done it. Like I would go to a super thin material, minimize the bridles in there, and just do something that would you're gonna use it for 5% of your session.
Yeah. So, this conversation comes up when we're trying to launch this and we're getting this north thing ready, right? At one point, it wasn't going upwind very well, and it was kind of like a reach. And we're like, well, I'm like, they're like, is this good enough? Like, people are gonna use it to go downwind. It's easy to pack. It's good. And I'm like, I'm worried that if you launch something into the market that is trying to be so competitive, you might lose some people, on your design aspect, right? Everyone, you're like, oh, cool, it's for this, right? Or it's for this. If it doesn't go upwind just a little bit, and just have like a little bit more of a competitive edge, I was like, you might lose some people that are looking to possibly do it in the future. And then when our V2 comes out that we're working on, that's going to be, way better because we have time. I mean, you got to like right now is the time to get these people in the market. Like I've got people begging me for Parawings. I've got flows on order. I've got ozones on order. I've got the north ones. I mean, I am going to be overstocked.
Yeah.
But I just can't get my hands on anything that's decent. So, and I know in the market who comes into my shop, which Parawing is for who. They're not exactly the same. And I think there can be tweaks in all of them, right? And eventually there will be. But I was worried that if it was a little bit too much get up and go and pack away and go downwind, we might lose the enthusiasm of some people that are looking for a Parawing with a little bit more performance, right? You can have
a winging
that
background or something like that.
Yeah. So,
and that's a huge market, isn't it? People who wing, probably the biggest market that will get into Parawinging. I think what you're saying is super important for the brands out there, because if you launch today an all-rounder, you're going to win. And if you launch like a downwind version, or like you're doing something, a niche version of a Parawing on inside a niche already, which is super small. So you kind of have to go a little bit all round at the start. And I think as the years go by, then sure, you'll have your downwind version. You might have, whatever version, like a freestyle version. And then start exploring the different variations there. But look, it's did you see that F1
Parawing? I saw it live in the flesh.
What? I didn't understand it though. Is it meant to be used? Is it a freestyle thing? Is it like more of a?
No, it's a wave. It's more of like a wave riding thing.
A wave.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was in Mexico and the F1 guys were there, just like one of the main North American kind of distribution. And he was, I don't know if he was super sure of what it was for, but I think it's called the plum, something like that. Yeah. So it's an inflated, whoever doesn't know, it's like an inflated, just an inflated leading edge. It's got, is it a vertical bar or is it horizontal? I think it's still a vertical bar. No?
I
don't know.
Saw
I can't
a video,
remember.
I think the video got taken out of down from YouTube. I couldn't find it anymore.
Anyway, what he was saying is that you can go really well upwind. It's very minimal, super light. And if you want a wave ride, you can just you flip it over. You know how you hold a kite in the wind on the beach? You hold it upside down like that, and you can surf, and it's very minimal drag.
Minimal drag. It's super
I don't
draggy.
know.
Like I feel
it said it was
when,
maybe less drag than a wing because it's not actually trying to engage unless it's flipped over and catching wind. Look, I don't know, but the more toys we have options to play with, the merrier, right?
Try it and see what.
I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't know if they're trying to do the upwind deflate. Maybe it's less material, it's lighter. I don't know. Because they were F1 was really into the upwind downwind, like the deflate downwind thing, right? They even made like a specific backpack for it. Monera was really early on trying to figure that out because people were doing upwinders and downwinders with the SUP with their wings. So I think maybe before the Parawing was a thing, they were working on this minimalistic inflatable kite that was able to go upwind just as well as a wing or better. That's lighter weight, less material, less handles, and you just go up, like deflate it, pack down, goes in your backpack, and
probably easier to
paddle it up.
Inflate as well if you need to with a little hand pump or something.
I don't know. I'm just making shit up.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious about it, man. I mean, like you, I didn't understand it when I saw it because I said, well, that's not a Parawing. That's not what the Parawing is meant to do. Like, I think the getting rid of the Parawing is a huge feature of it.
I think it's because it's because we're so focused on the Parawing and what it can do and its packability that we're just not understanding what it's made for, or because it's not a Parawing, you know, it's not meant to be packable and downwindable. I don't know what it's for, but time will tell. I guess.
Anyone from F1 is hearing this, send us a message about what the focus was.
What's the plum for?
But anyway, I like the innovation, and I do commend all the brands that are putting money and time into this because it just helps us, man. It's going to be so interesting to see where this goes when, you know, all the wingers get into it. Hood River this year is going to go off, I think, with Parawings everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's only a handful of us that are doing it around here, and we've got leftovers from, you know, what I ordered and what our core kind of downwind crew has ordered. And then it's kind of been distributed between us, and then what people could order flows and get them in early enough. So I'm curious to see how it is in our market, especially. It's pretty small, but to see how it goes and what people think of it, and if they really capture what it's for, or they use it for their own, you know, what their purpose is, right? Because time will tell what the market really wants to do with it, right? Because essentially, you know, when I talked to Greg, the BRM was to surf waves. It was not to go.
And it's still probably the best one to do that.
Yeah, it was not made to. He wasn't making it to do downwinders. He wasn't a downwinder. He was making it to go out from the waves and surf the waves with as little drag as possible and pop it back up and go back. Right.
Makes sense.
The moment that it launched, I went on a downwinder, and there's 6 downwinders there that have the BRM, and they're like, we're using this to downwind.
Yeah.
Right. They didn't even think about going upwind. They didn't even want to ride it. They're probably some of them might not even be wingers. Right.
Yeah.
It was a downwind device. Right. So right there and then people decided what they wanted to use it for versus what it was, the purpose of it was designed for, essentially, which is interesting.
What do you think of like accessories that we have right now in parawinging? For example, the belt. I freaking hate the belt. I don't think it's a good solution yet for stowing the parawing quickly. Like, I think it takes a little time for you to get everything in the belt. When you put it in the belt, it never comes out, you know, in a good shape for it to redeploy or.
Yeah, I've never, you know, I think also it depends on background, right? People that are coming into this that are not downwinders that eventually will get into downwinding because of this, because of how hard it is to paddle. You know, it's really hard to like get up, pack it away, and concentrate on downwinding at the same time you're trying to hold this thing, right? Yeah. And then you're trying to pack it away. I think it's a little bit more advanced, right? So I think people just shoving it into their shirt is their best option because they're like, okay, I'm up on foil, shove it in their shirt, and now I'm downwinding. For me, I get up, I collapse it, I start my downwinder, I grab it, you know, I put it in a little bag, I put the bar in it, I roll it up, I take my backpack off, I shove it in my backpack, I put my backpack back on, and I'm downwinding. Yeah, you know, and they're like,
easy.
They're like, why would you do that? And I was like, well, because once I'm on foil downwinding, that's it. That's all I need, and then I could do whatever, you know.
But so you're at a level of downwinding coming from that background that you can,
exactly.
Relax a little bit about reading the bumps and all that stuff, which is
I think
takes a little time.
None of these solutions are really great at the moment. You know, the best that people are thinking of is an easy solution for a beginner that, you know, wants to catch their bearings on foil is like just shoving it under their shirt, right? I think that's way easier than shoving it like in that kangaroo pouch that has, you know, these clips on it. I never got one because I never found it to be like a solution for me.
Yeah,
and how I wanted to use it.
And I use it today mainly to have a second Parawing with me when I'm out there.
Yeah.
Like you have your backpack.
Yeah.
But if I'm doing upwind, downwinds, which is what I'm using it mainly for, kind of stopped as in like I don't need to do the car shuttles anymore, and it's easier for me to do a quick session, do upwind, downwinds, and hit a little spot that, you know, the bumps pick up a bit. I don't stow it all the way either. I just hold it.
Yeah.
And I get like, you know, 80-90% success with my redeploys that way versus stowing it and just getting out and it's all a mess after you get it in the belt.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a mess either way. Potentially.
There's always the potential for mess, but I heard that Ozone is coming up with a different style of belt as well.
Yeah.
Which has kind of an expandable material, a little bit more flexy material, rather than that neoprene and the plastic kind of rigid back to the belt. It's going to be something that might help a little bit with the stow. And keen to see. I haven't seen it on the website yet. I checked it the other day to see if it's up there yet, but I haven't seen it. Sydney told me that they have something cool coming up.
I'm sure she would know. I'm sure she's got some influence on that.
100%.
North is going to come out with a belt. It's also a little bit different, and it's also combined with a wing. Like you can use it to hook in as well, so it's going to have a hook on it.
Nice. I think that's natural, right? You should have that in there.
You should have that. So you've got a hook on it. Hopefully, it's going to have a spot for a kite knife, because you're adding all these lines around you. You're falling in it. Like I think it's a no-brainer to have a kite knife now. You know, if you're going out. So hopefully that's a good addition.
Will it have somewhere to clip on a leash as well, so you don't have to use a waist leash, or like it would be the one solution where you don't have to have another?
Yeah. There's a spot to put your leash as well.
Yeah, cool. I think that's helpful.
But most of it's like all of these ones you're turning it around. You're either like putting it here and then you're putting it there. So there's only a certain amount of options you can have. If you're gonna keep spinning it around and your leash is on your waist, I don't know.
I use the Kaohi leashes, and they have the little carabiner. So if
you just clip it on.
Yeah, I can clip it on and off, and I think that's kind of a quick, fast solution. Like it's easy to unclip and clip it on if you need to.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we need to talk. I want to talk to you about boards before we wrap this up, because
there's so much that we could talk about. I'm sure
I'm going to make this very...
I'm sure we messed all this up, you know?
Oh, dude. I had 3 words here before the chat. Intro, uses, technique, gear, and board.
Yeah.
That's all I had prepared.
I had
we
nothing.
have enough to talk about. I think I'm coming at this from a very personal point of view, because I'm looking to get a Parawing specific board for myself. And I want to know what you're riding. What's like and thinking about the smallest board that you're able to ride, and what does it look like?
Yeah. So right now I'm on a Super K from KT. I started with a 70 liter just because I just wanted to make it easier on me. And I don't ride a foil that's over a 900 typically. So 900 is the biggest foil I've ever used with a Parawing.
Okay.
And so I'm typically on the 770R, the 850S, and then a 750 from North, their downwind foil, which is really good. So I'm on smaller foils, and I started with a 70 liter to get a little bit more float out of it. I'm currently 80 kilos, I think. And then once I had a couple sessions under my belt, I went down to the 60 liter.
Oh, you're on 60. Nice.
Yeah, so I'm on a 60, and it's great because I just keep that in my van. If I want to wing it, it's not too big. Parawinging, it's perfect. It's a good size, and I don't know what I would, what the ideal board would be. That's just what I'm using because that's what I've got. Like I said, I'm not super specific about what I ride all the time, and I'm typically left with whatever's left over in the shop if I haven't sold it.
Oh, you're spoiled though, because that Super K is a sick board.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, the Super K is great. So I was lucky enough that I did have leftover inventory of the 60, and I'm like, should I open it? Should I not? I'm like, I'll just stick with the 70.
Crack it
And
open.
someone came into the shop. They're like, I want the 70, but do you have a discount? I'm like, well, I'll sell you my used one. So I took it out of the van, sold the 70, and then I'm like, okay, I'll take a 60, you know?
So I'm riding this. How much wind do you need to get up on that 60-liter?
So my biggest Parawing is the North. It's the 4.2, and I can get up on the 770 in 14 knots, 13, awesome, 14 man. Knots.
That's not much.
Yeah.
I think I'd struggle on the 4.2 flow because maybe of that bottom end that you were talking about. In 15 knots, I don't think I can
with
get
the
it
flow.
up on the
I need like 16 knots.
Yeah. Still
with
good.
That thing. Yeah.
Still very good, man.
Yeah.
I need to work on my sinker technique. Well, not necessarily
full
sinker.
It's all in the legs.
Tell us about it.
It's all like, it's just, you just got to finesse it and feather your board. Just little pumps. And there's one point that you start to feel it release. You know, you can go downwind a little bit with the Parawing, and you kind of like let it get into the wind. If you do that too early, then you're just left with no power. So you kind of hold it tight. You're trying to get up crosswind, not into the upwind, and you kind of like, you just slowly like pump your board, and you just give it like little like feathers, and trying to like sink the back tail and letting it release and let it release. And the moment you feel like you're gaining a little bit of speed, you kind of veer off downwind, it catches some wind, and you kind of pull on it again and just take off.
Nice. It is very sensitive, that feeling of when you start to engage the foil pumping, you know, like a sensitive pump. You don't want to punch through the water, otherwise you just lose all your momentum. And when you're starting out, those techniques, man, with a Parawing that you're trying to fly, they can be challenging. So I think people that just get a Parawing, go out, fly it in the land I stay like, I'm on the beach practicing tacks on it for a long time. Just after my session, before my session.
You can tell everybody that they're not going to do it.
Why though?
I do the same. Like, I've been teaching lessons for 15 years, and they're like, oh man, I don't really have the money, and you know, I can't keep taking lessons. I'm like, dude, just go buy this kite, because you're going to buy it anyway. Go fly it on the beach for 6 hours. Drag yourself through the water. You know, just fly it on the beach. You do 6 hours of kite flying for free. You know, you're already an independent. You can fly the kite. You can't ride the board, but you can fly the kite. Just go do it for free. Do it an hour a day, you know? And then so much go there. I go out there. The next day I go out, and they're like crashing the kite around with the board, trying to put the board on. I'm like, bro. I'm like, come on. Like, just fly the kite for a second.
Fly the kite. You need to understand it. And it's so much of the Parawing and kiting experience to learn the kite. Because sure, you're going to get up. Let's say this guy gets up. He'll go 100 meters, and then he's going to, try a jibe and not make it.
Yeah, no. Fail, body drag for an hour, not know how to get frustrated because you're not riding the board. But essentially, you shouldn't be riding the board if you don't know how to fly a kite properly, right? Yeah. Or you don't feel comfortable. And it's the same with, you know, the winging, the Parawinging. Yeah, just spend time on the beach and spend time dragging on your knees, going back and forth. If you're not on foil, you're still learning something, you know? Like, I think people are too worried, and they want to get somewhere so quickly because they see everybody else doing it. They're like, this is what I should be doing. You're like, I should be foiling with a Parawing upwind. You're like, cool. Maybe in 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, if you're going to do it every day, right? But they expect to do it right away, and then there's like frustration. They're like, oh, this sport's stupid, you know, I just don't. You know, there's all these lines that got tangled around me, and then the bar got tangled, and they're like, you're in the water, and how do you get the water out? And you're like, well, you didn't spend 5 minutes just thinking about it, you know, because, and that's how these people get so good, right? That's how you get so good. That's how all of these guys like Sinbad and all these people that are like leading the charge in this Parawinging thing is because they understand how hard it is and how much time you have to dedicate to all the nuances of what makes it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I go out there and I suffer. I had horrible sessions in Hood River. I went out in almost no wind. I went 4 miles, floated to the other side. You know, I went from Washington to Oregon, you know, and ended up in like grass that was like neck high. And I had 2 Parawings that were like slipping out of that kangaroo pouch. And it was horrible. And I was like, oh my God, not doing that again.
Mm.
And then I went and did it the next day. But, but you know, you
ate it again.
Yeah. But you know, you got to understand that
you're also one of the pioneers, dude. Like you're one of the people that are trying, experimenting. Where's the potential in this? And I think for you, you still put yourself in those positions, but people can learn from your experience. And that's the thing that is, I think, where you're getting at. Like, for example, I was trying tacks and stuff. I was on the beach and I would just be doing tacks, walking upwind and simulating the movement and getting that muscle memory down, because the tack on the Parawing is something that happens so fast compared to a kite. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be easy. And the first time I tried it, just got yarded back, had a horrible fall. And I don't know why, like I cut my foot. It was horrible on the tail. And then I'm like, okay, so let's go to the land, understand where my hands will be, where my pressure will be on the bar. And then it started to come together. And then when you throw it on the water, I threw it on the water in 15 knots, on the light wind day. And then to gain that confidence to when it's like 25 knots, I can chuck it and try to get onto a wave. Cool. But that doesn't come the first day. Yeah. How are you doing your tacks? I saw a video that you did a beautiful tack, foot switch, was textbook. And I was like, yes.
I don't know. It just comes to me, So I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm going heel side first, coming in goofy, so left foot forward, and I'm just when I'm going with the wing, I just grab it underneath with this hand like this way, and I just try not to put too much pressure on the backhand so it doesn't stall, and I just try to fly it through the window, and then I put a little bit of pressure on the backhand so it'll pivot, and once it pivots,
it needs to turn, right? The pressure on
the
back
not,
makes it turn.
Yeah, so you can't like just go into it and then come around the other side. The wing just will stay going the same direction. So you got to kind of get it over your head and almost pivot it so it turns the other way first, and then you make your way around, and it'll just follow you. As the tension engages, it'll start flying the other way.
How do you get the power? Finish your thought.
Yes, I mean, it just like from kiting, right? It's like wherever that leading edge is pointing is where it's going to fly, right? Yeah. Always. So if it's only pointing this way, it doesn't matter you're going that way. It won't follow you, So you've always got to get it up and over, get it pointing that way. And then once you come around the other side, you've got a little bit of lift. And it doesn't matter. It won't take off yet because it won't be faster than you because you're coming around pretty quick. And then it'll start to fly that way. And once you engage tension and you're coming out the other way, it'll start to fly and it'll cross over. And then you've got your power again.
I felt it hard. That last little 30% of the trick, I spent a lot of time just touching down and not staying on foil. I was struggling to get power. Speed
is your friend. Just go into everything faster. If you go in fast, you're going to come out with speed. The problem is that if you go into anything too slow, you're not left with anything, right? You can't gain speed through a turn when you're already going into it slow. It's hard when you come out the other side,
wing, right? Because the wing, if you're riding the wing, it kind of has that immediate power that you can kind of pump the wing and make it work out of attack. But that's a great tip. The speed that you get into it allows you to then gain tension on the lines again on the Parawing. The Parawing engages again, and then boom, once it's on, it's powerful. It's pulling again.
You just have to make sure also when you're turning all the way around that you turn again back to where you're going. You can't be pointing too much upwind.
Yeah.
With the wing, you can just you can tack around and you're angled upwind already to engage the wing, and you're going upwind. Versus this one, if you go too far upwind, you'll lose your speed because the wing doesn't have that much of an angle, the Parawing, and it doesn't have that much power. So it's got to re-engage. You have to gain some momentum and speed, and then you can cut your angle back upwind.
Yeah, so it's just turn, faster.
Yeah. Little nuances, and it just takes time and practice, and you just have to be under the wing to feel it. And then if you try to break it down, sure, I've never really tried to break it down. I've told people how to tack, but I'm like, just go fast, just go fast and just go fast and pray.
Yeah. Dude, I'd love this chat, man. Are there any other points that you feel we need to touch on? I always like to talk about safety. We did a little bit with losing Parawings and leashes and stuff. I'm not a leash advocate, but anything else you want to talk about?
I think as long as you have a release on your leash, you know, you have a safety release, which some do. If you feel more comfortable having one and you feel you want to be connected to it, you know, I've had some of the North riders that got the early Parawings, they leashed them to it because they wanted to be leashed to it. And I think they were also scared of losing the Parawing
after your story,
from my experience. But they're like, oh, so now you're going to wear a leash. I'm like, no, definitely not going to wear a leash. I think, you know, in all of these sports, you just have to be aware of the risk that's involved and, you know, how far you're going out and what kind of a mess you can get yourself into. When you're surfing waves with a Parawing and lines and a parachute that can sink and wrap around you, you've just got to be prepared and stay calm. You know, especially with the wing, you've got a flotation device. With your board, you've got a flotation device, right? So with the Parawing, it's not as safe as going out on a wing because it can sink. It's not loaded all the time. It's not a safety device in that aspect when it's in the water. And there's lots of lines that can get around you. At least the lines are short.
Kind of a hazard. Something that will enhance
the
sucking experience.
I just wouldn't be worried about losing a Parawing. You know, it's better to be safe than to, you know, jump into your Parawing, you know, to save it. You're like, oh, there my Parawing goes, and jump into it or something to get tangled in the lines and find yourself in a scary situation that you can't handle in the water. You know, being in the water is dangerous in general, even if you're a swimmer. Forget about adding lines and a parachute and a leash and a foil, you know, and waves, right? Like
just we don't get
just
more
swimming.
hurt, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, everyone that's getting into this, I wouldn't be scared of it. You know, just take your own precautions. If you're a little bit more worried, then take extra precautions. Wear a life jacket, wear a helmet, take a knife with you. Have I done that? No. Should I? Sure. You know, but it's all like your risk tolerance, right? And situations that have had happened to you or haven't happened to you yet. So once something like that happens to me, I'm like, oh shit, I'm definitely taking a knife with me every time. You know, like getting tangled around the ankles in a set wave, like disaster, right?
I think the guys in Maui are doing that now. They have little kite knives on them.
I'd assume so. Like it's just not a bad idea. It's this small, you know, although the Parawing can tangle on it, you know.
God, tangle is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
What can't it tangle on?
And then picking your Parawing, I think if you're getting into it, they're all gonna work, and they all have, you know, little specifications. And my preference might not be your preference. And one Parawing might be easier for straight downwinding versus one is better for tacking. You know, and those are just nuances that you have to figure out. And if you're that specific, then you should do your research and test it and figure out what's for you. But if not, and you're not a Parawinger and you're not sure which one to get, I don't think it really matters. You know,
don't either. Like, they all work, man.
Then grab a BRM, grab this like German born Wave Star. Like it works great. You know, they all work. And then once you be more proficient in it, then you can start specifying of what Parawing you want to use in what conditions. Because I know what Parawing I want to use right now, and you know, when it's blowing this much wind, and this is what I'm going to do with it. You know, if I'm going to go downwind, I want ease of getting up on foil, and I'm not scared of how much power I want to hold down, or I don't want to be underpowered. I'm definitely taking the north. If I want to wing around, I have obstacles to get out of, and I want to go upwind a little bit or have a little bit more performance because I want to race my friends or something, then I'm going to take the flow. You know, and I'm lucky enough to have that opportunity to have all of these Parawings on my shelf. But in the end, whoever your local distributor is and whoever you can get a Parawing from, buy it from them.
That's the best Parawing, isn't it? The closest one to you. Yeah. I agree, man.
The one that's in your shop. Because they can support you, you know?
They will all change so much in the next 6 months. Whatever you get now is going to not be the best Parawing anyway. Tomorrow, you know what I mean? Like, get one, just start doing the sport because it does open up a lot. I feel like you can have the kite foiling experience, the winging experience, even the prone, surfing waves, and obviously doing the downwind. So I think it does it all, and I think this year is just going to be mental what people are going to be doing with this stuff.
Yeah. I'm stoked that, North, we held out just a little bit to up the performance a little bit, but still not wait too long to feel like it's the best Parawing on the market, because then, we'd be left out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that we're in the mix with all of these other brands coming out with all of these different Parawings, and the market can decide what they want. What's the closest, what's the most accessible, what's the cheapest, what's the most expensive, and what kind of performance they want out of it. And then the V2s that are coming out that everyone's essentially working on, because now we have the time. We can, you can breathe, for a second. We've got Parawings. Like, they're going to be here mid-April. Okay. Mid-April, everyone's going to have more Parawings than they need. Yeah. Trust me, I ordered way too many. It's just, I'm just way too excited. I'm like, I hope it explodes, and I hope it's going to do what I want it to do, right? But then we can relax a little bit and be like, okay, let's dial this down and let's figure out, let's tweak every little aspect to make it as perfect as we can, because now we have the time to do that as everyone fools around with all these beautiful products that we already have, right? If that makes sense.
Like you said, you're very close to North, and I think a big part of design and the design process is to be close to the customer, understand their feedback and what they want. Like, is being close to kite shops like you their way to do that and get feedback from customers? Do you hear that from them a lot?
I think the reason why I'm integrated with them and I am good for them is because I am the shop.
Yeah.
Right? I am the shop, I am the customer, and I deal with my customers all day long. So I know what's happening out, and I know what brands people are buying, and I'm on the ground floor because I'm just a foil frother like everybody else. But then I have to be the shop, but also, I want to be part of the design, and I'm, part of, so I'm really layered in there. I'm like the sales force all the way down to the customer on the ground floor. And also I get to do this, right? I get to talk to you. I do podcasts, and I know, this foil environment, and I know what kind of trends are happening. I hope I can, because I want to keep my pulse on it.
Yeah.
And that's why 100%. I feel like it's really cool to also be part of that part with them, to see what their inner unit feels like and what their design process looks like versus what I would do, and it's always going to be a little bit different, every company and designers and then corporations and then CEO, and you have to go to factories, and if I would do it my way, then I would do what Greg does, right?
Yeah. Sell direct.
You wouldn't have to go through all of these layers to finally launch a unit, right?
And with big
but
brands
it's
like
nice
North,
to see that.
It's like, it really depends how much time they can put on it, depending on how the winging market is going, the kite surfing market is going. It's just a lot to consider that we don't even think about.
It's a lot, but I'm super stoked that they had a really big focus on this. Like, it was essentially beforehand, it was like a side project. They're like, oh, we've got this thing that we, this rescue tow device, and they didn't even know what they had in front of their eyes, right? Because there's so much going on. There's still such a new brand that's doing so much in the kite market, trying to lead in the kite and the big air, and then trying to lead in the winging and the foiling, and then downwinding, and then this Parawing thing comes along. And I mean, it's essentially been their DNA from the beginning. They launched as a kite company. They're like, hey, let's do this, right? From ground zero. They're like, let's go. And then as they're trying to launch a brand new kite company, foiling comes along. They're like, yeah, but you got to do this too. They're like, oh, shit.
I mean, it's so hard as a brand, man, to still move as fast as a startup. Being established like that takes such good internal culture, and that's awesome.
Excitement.
Them, yeah.
But you go to any brand, everybody's just as excited, right? You'd be like, oh, but North is the most excited. Like, I hear, the brand manager, I hear Mike Raper talking. Like, you can't get him to shut up. He's like energy at you with this. Yeah. I'm like, damn. I'm like, that guy is excited. I'm like, I can't believe it. And then you go to the next brand there, and you listen to their story, and you're like, fuck, That guy's excited too, you know?
So
and then
cool,
you
man.
listen to this one, you're like, God damn, like how many people can be that, like to the core,
Yeah.
believe in their product and believe in what they're doing and want to grow and expand. Like it's kind of silly, and like, thank God, lucky us that we have these people, you know, on the top with money and then funding and then factories and figuring out the packaging and blah, blah. And then we get to like swipe our credit card and get this unit,
say,
you know?
it doesn't work that well. Like,
Yeah, you're like, it doesn't go up in great, and then the leading edge does this, and you're like,
it's a little flatter here. He's like, oh, shut up.
And it's just like the inner workings are just insane, right? It's crazy to be. I'm not even part of it. I'm just tapped in because I want to be, you know?
Yeah.
They've got me on a huge salary. No, I'm kidding.
6-figure salary.
We'll
talk about that later off camera.
Yeah, right.
Dude, we need to do this every 6 months or so, because I think the Parawing in 6 months will be very different from what we're talking about now.
Parawing's going to be a thing of the past in 6 months, my friend. We're going to be on.
I was a fad.
We're going to be on plums.
Yeah, well, like I really want to see if I can get someone from F1 to talk about that plum and understand it a little more. Like, we have to try it, right?
No, for sure.
Once we fly it, we might just say, okay, this is it. To me, it's still possibly a freestyle thing, but then you said waves. We'll see, man. I
don't know. Just give it to Radiculo, and he'll turn it into a freestyle thing. So
yeah,
I think he's flown it. He told me he's flown it already.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
What did he say?
I can't remember. It was like we text back and forth here and there, and and I was like, I posted a video or something of it, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And what are they thinking? I'm like, I genuinely want to know what they're thinking. He's like, oh man, he sent me a voice note, I think. He's like, oh, I tried it. It's pretty interesting. It's really light. It goes upwind really well. It doesn't have much low end, but then, you know, I could actually do a backflip with it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised.
That's crazy, man. The stuff that he does and the ease of just being inverted is just next level.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, but we can definitely do this again. I think there's a lot to talk about, and I know there are instructional videos and stuff out there. I haven't watched any of them. I've only watched one of your videos when you compared the BRM to the Flow, but I'm not watching these things. But I think there are, you know, some things that people would want to know, more like tech tip things. Yeah. And in a podcast is a good way to do it, because people, you know, they're not always sitting in front of their computer watching things. When they really want to figure something out, they're searching specifics and watching tidbits. But then they're sitting in their car listening to podcasts, and there's a lot of information that I think is really insightful from somebody that's been doing parawinging so much and using so many different brands, and what little tips and tricks make a big difference. And I'm sure it's all out there, but if you want to compile it all into one, you know, section, it might make sense, so that people have this one episode of like, this is what you need, right? And I don't know if there's actually a audio podcast about it, because really on my podcast I just talk a bunch of crap, you know, and we have like, you know, like in this, like we have a bunch of great information in there, but you got to listen to, what is that, an hour and 40 minutes of whatever it is. And there's some good stuff in there, but you got to stick
through it. You'll find some nuggets in there, hopefully.
Yeah, all right, for sure.
Look, let's wrap it up then, because we don't want to hit the 2-hour mark on this, but it's been epic talking to you. Thanks for just being open as well. You had no idea who I was, so you just like, yep, dude, let's talk, whatever. I'm happy to do it.
Any Parawinger is a friend of mine, you know? Yeah,
same here.
For sure. Cool, man. Yeah, dude. It's been great. Thanks for having me on your show, and maybe this will be my show too. We don't know, but... I'm glad you linked us up and we got to sit down and do this for sure.
Sounds good, man. Next time we talk, we'll have Walt with us, get more banter going.
For sure. less if we want less banter.
More specificity. All right.
Cheers, boys.